Hi, it's Tansel. Bad at remembering names? Well, here are my 7 tips so you can never, ever, ever forget a name. Let's go. Number 1, create an image from the name. Let's take an example of a name. My name, for example, Tansel. When people think of Tansel, sometimes they say tinsel or tonsil or yellow. Hey, you Tansel, right? By creating an image, you're able to visualize what that name is, hence be able to remember it. And that's a really cool technique to be able to remember names. Number 2, create a story from the name. Now, it's great to have an image, but you need to be able to create a story so that engages the brain to be able to remember. My name, Tansel, you can create tinsel, but it's not strong enough. What if you put tinsel around my head and put me on top of a Christmas tree, right? Now there's some sort of a little narrative playing out there, or someone's pulling on my tonsils, right? A story engages, and if you can create a story from the name, you'll be able to remember it a lot better. Tip number 3, review the name. Now, what that means is really reviewing the story you made for the name. So if you've said John and they're sitting in a toilet reading newspaper, well, now you can add more detail to that story. Which toilet is it located at? Is it in your house, or are they out in the bush somewhere, right? Are there animals surrounding him? You know, is he eating food? I mean, that's disgusting, right? But the whole point is to make a story detailed and review that story, adding more detail as you go along. That's a really cool way of reviewing the name and remember it for longer term. Tip number 4, if you can, write down the name beforehand. So either get a business card, or if you're in a meeting, write down the name as they're saying it. What that does is it helps you to have that name stored so that you can go back to it at any given point and start creating your associations for that name. So for example, you're in a meeting, everyone's talking and saying their name, you can quickly write down those names, and then as they're talking, start to add those detail of stories in there. And that's a really cool way of being able to remember a lot of people all at once. Tip number 5, if you can, plan and memorize ahead. Now, if you meet a group of people and you already know those groups of people that you're going to meet with, you've got their names, try and create associations for them beforehand. So when you do meet them, all you have to do is make a story quickly instead of trying to create a story altogether. When I usually get up on stage to present, what I try and ask for is a list of all names. Now, whether that's 100 people or 1,000 people, I try and get those names and pre-memorize them so that when I do go onto stage and someone gives me their name, or I go and memorize every single person's name, I've already attached that story that I made earlier. So it's a lot quicker to make the connection. And that's what you want. You want quick connections. You don't want to have to be there taking ages to try and make up a story for that name, because otherwise you might be up to meeting the 10th person where you're trying to still make up the first story for the first person. So plan ahead if you can, if possible. Tip number 6, mentally prepare yourself if you're going to be meeting people. If you know you're going to be in a social situation, what you can do is tell yourself, look, you're about to meet people, get your name game on. Get it on, make sure that you're prepared to face people to remember their name, right? As soon as you prime yourself like that, it's like getting yourself ready and pumped up. That way, you'll not only be ready, you'll be able to remember people's names because you've taken action previously in your mind. So mentally prepare yourself for it. And finally, tip number 7, train your memory. Now, remembering names is not just enough. You need to be able to encode a lot faster. I keep talking about this in my videos, but it's fundamental. The principles are the same. You need to be able to build the story. You need to be able to encode faster. And the best way to do that is to train your brain. Now, I run a lot of this training myself. That's why I do coaching, and I do a lot of seminars and events. So if you do happen to get to them, come along, because it'll show you how to train your brain a lot faster and be able to do things like not just remember names, but read a lot faster and better. So training your memory is a key skill that you definitely need to be able to remember names a lot better. So hopefully that's helped you. If you have more tips, feel free to comment down below. We're all happy to learn from each other, and watch all my other videos. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be getting more content out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.